Hello and welcome. You're listening to the CNET UK Podcast, and this is episode 414 for Friday the 12th of December 2014. We're stepping into virtual reality as the first major VR product hits the market. We're stepping into the past by extracting DNA from ancient manuscripts, and into space as we check out a Superman show without Superman. I'm Rich Trenholm, and joining me in our high-tech London studio this week is Andy Hoyle.
Hello, you came to me first.
I did come to you
That means I get to say hi before Luke.
Yeah, well, I think you botched it, to be honest. Luke Westaway is also with us, so can you see if you can do any better than that?
Well, the good thing about you going to Andy first is that it gives me more time to think about something funny to say. And instead of something funny this time, I've come up with that searing insight. So you're welcome.
Stay tuned for more of this kind of podcast gold. Why don't we kick off with the news?
Hooray for VR, virtual reality tech fans.
Yep.
Or acronym fans.
There's so many people who are going to be excited about this.
There is, yes. So it's Samsung's VR, Gear VR, its virtual reality headset. That has finally gone on sale. But I see you're already getting very excited. Your blank, staring, lifeless faces and those dead shark eyes.
My face is not lifeless.
Actually, no.
It's pallid, but it's not actually dead.
So, Andy, you've tried the Gear VR.
So, well, I have tried it, but the reason not to be excited yet is because it's only going on sale in the US. So far, and it's only being launched through AT&T's website and some of Samsung's own retailers, I believe. So it's only on quite a limited release. But you're right,
and
Rich.
you have to have a Samsung Galaxy Note 4 as well.
That is the other problem with the Gear VR.
If you're one of the
So actually,
people
addressing this news to a UK-centric podcast is kind of like an insult to the listeners.
But it's interesting to know that it is on sale, and maybe it's going to soon come over here. And so, I have been, and I have had a go with the Gear VR. And I actually had this great demo where Samsung had filmed this 360-degree video from a camera mounted below a helicopter flying over a glacier. So I put the headset on, and then as I look around, move around, I'm seeing the entire view of this glacier in full HD as I'm looking around, which really was actually incredible. Genuinely, this was impressive. I was seriously. I mean, it was almost a bit sickening because it was flying right over this glacier, and it was quite unnerving.
That perfectly simulated being tied to the underside of a helicopter.
Which is great. But you're right, you do have to have a Note 4. Yeah. And the Note 4 is about £600, and then the Gear VR itself is launching in the US for $200. That's a hell of a lot of money to spend.
So the helicopter landed, wouldn't it have squashed the camera?
Don't ask questions like that, Luke. We're going to go into a rabbit warren of darkness.
That's the end of the simulation. The camera lands and you die.
Yeah, you get squashed.
If you die in VR, you die in real life.
So this is significant, I guess, because there are virtual reality products out there, and we have had virtual reality for years and years and years. But of the current kind of wave of interest in it, this is significant because they've beaten Sony's Project Morpheus, and they've beaten Oculus as well, which was the kind of company that resurrected interest in VR, and they've really been taking their time. So it's so I suppose Samsung's got the resources.
So does Oculus. How they've been bought by Facebook, but after that deal went through, we've just heard nothing really. I mean, I'm not sure if they're even doing anything with it. But so Samsung's the first. Although Samsung's is definitely. It's a weaker product in terms of what it can do because
it's just a hat.
It's a hat.
It's a hat. You put your phone. So it's not proper virtual reality like a.
Doesn't have its own
posh hat.
Yeah, it doesn't have its own screen. Doesn't have its own processing. It's all done through the phone. Whereas Oculus is a complete unit that would effectively be.
You're a complete unit.
You complete unit.
Yes. Well, thank you for ruining my.
You complete package.
Sorry, you came close to actually making a sort of meaningful point then. So
I wasn't even close.
So this thing costs $200 if you're in America.
Yeah. And what do our readers think of that?
Ich bin ein Nerd.
Ich bin ein Nerd.
In the comments says, so you're telling me they expect me to pay $200 for a glorified smartphone accessory? I wouldn't call it glorified. That's what this is, right? A smartphone accessory.
Yeah.
Yes. So that is what we're telling you.
Ich bin ein Nerd. Bad news.
Oh, well, I mean, hopefully it'll come over here. That hopefully we'll
yeah,
see.
Luckily it's a diminishing trend, stuff that we don't get in the UK. Like the Apple Watch, they've not mentioned a UK release date for that, so it seems likely at the moment that maybe we'll have to wait a little bit. Andrew, Andy has a stick of Brighton Rock hidden behind his
honestly,
and he's
I don't.
reaching for it
No, I don't.
when he knows the camera is on someone else, so that he can just have a little bit of rock.
I like Brighton Rock. It's colourful. Look at all the colours.
Yeah,
Brilliant.
It's very colourful, apart from the end that you've sucked all the colour. Don't put it in your mouth.
And it's the
Do not
fruity
put
one,
it
not
in
the
your
mint
mouth.
one, because mint rock is awful.
That is terrible.
Put it
Honestly,
back in its noisy packaging.
This is audio gold. I'd just like to apologise to all.
Everyone
podcast,
knows what Brighton
listeners.
Rock is. This is a UK podcast.
That's true.
Yeah.
That's true.
So
Speaking of which,
there you go. Stuff that you can't buy is going in the UK. That's also in America is going away.
Okay. Cool. What else has
good.
been going on in the news this week?
Okay,
Andy?
well, Black Phone. Now, this is the smartphone that was released for ultra security conscious people. It can't be hacked, and you can make secure phone calls and texts. Well, it has just got its own app store.
That's right, opening in January.
Yeah, you know a lot more about this, Rich, don't you? Because you wrote about the Black Phone, I believe.
I did, yeah. So this is, like you say, it's a kind of collaboration between a company called Geeksphone, which makes the hardware, and a service called Silent Circle, which does this kind of encryption of secure messages and text. So you make a phone call, and in theory, it can't be listened to. So this phone, it's an Android-powered phone, but up until now, we first saw it, I think, in February at Mobile World Congress, and you'll be able to buy it for I think since summer. But it's an Android phone, but you can't. You have to use the Amazon App Store, and obviously, if you buy this secure phone and then you download certain apps onto it, some of them are going to be quite leaky. It's going to be a bit of a point of sort of insecurity. So, there's always this controversy that we're hearing about apps taking charge of your camera and all that kind of thing. So the idea is that the Black Phone are going to kind of vet these apps. They're not going to have games or social network stuff, but they're going to vet this stuff like Apple does.
No social network.
Why not
social network
games?
stuff.
Why not?
Well, I think
Because it's too frivolous. Too frivolous for someone who's security minded.
Exactly. Yeah. You can't be wasting time on games when you should be thinking about who's watching you.
Yeah, you don't want to be playing Tetris when the black helicopters
kick down your door.
Yeah, a helicopter couldn't kick down a door.
So as part of
unless it banked quickly and used it as runners.
Well, the idea is one of the sets of people they're selling it to. The main probably set of people they're selling it to is people who are going to be business users. So I think the idea is that they're going to have business focused apps so that this can become like a viable alternative to say a BlackBerry or a Samsung phone.
Well, Mr. Freeze 574 in the comments says, "Why not just use a BlackBerry?" How long have you got?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Thanks, Mr. Freeze. But this is meant to be a short podcast, so there you go.
Anyway,
is the idea with this app store and all the security stuff that it's controlling apps that will sort of frivolously sell your data or use your data in certain ways? Is that part of it, or is it just about the communication?
There's various parts of it. It's they don't want it to be leaky, and apps are used. They don't want to get malware on there. They don't want it to be leaky, and your personal details can be got access through the apps. They don't
Hence
want
no social networks, which is a shame because
Exactly,
I'd like. So I mean, I don't want a phone that denies me from ever being able to use social networks.
Well, that's true. That's
I
true.
like
but then,
social networks.
You obviously you aren't taking your privacy and security seriously. And I think that this year, or next year, 2015, I think will be a year when security goes mainstream in terms of phones and mobile devices. I think
that sounds so boring.
It
crucial and useful, but
really boring.
Are we going to, in a year's time, we're going to be, well, this was the year that security went mainstream.
Just like review of the year 2015 with a party hat on.
What a year it's been for security. Well, actually, I'm writing a review of like the year at the moment, and looking back, it's not been a whale of a time. It's like, remember GCHQ and all the.
It's also been a boring year. Someone asked me a couple of days ago, said, what Android smartphone are you using at the moment? Because I review our phones, so I tend to have like all of the best ones.
Yeah,
and
show off.
Well,
Humble
but
brag.
my point is that I'm just so not excited about any of them. Like, there's just nothing that's really standing out that's making me go, "Oh, that's cool. I'm going to use this one. I'm going to talk to you about this phone."
Could be
I know that's
because
not that
you're
point, but we're talking about
jaded.
themes of the year. My theme is that, God, I'm really just bored. I'm seriously bored.
It's time to knock this
only
Andy.
boring people get bored.
Yeah.
That's my dear old mum used to say.
Knock this Andy on the head and thaw out another one.
Exactly. He's become self-aware.
Yeah, unwrap another Andy, so fresh-faced, excited about phones again.
Well, to be fair, I mean, we did see at Mobile World Congress in the last year and the year before, there was very incremental stuff, wasn't there? There weren't sort of any exciting new products. I mean, the Black Phone was the kind of exciting new product.
That was, as was like Firefox OS and and Ubuntu. Ubuntu looked really cool, and that was actually quite exciting because it was new and different, and we've not seen anything of it. So, yeah, just more slightly different looking Android phones, please.
Yeah, basically all the same. So we're wondering off the point, but Mobile World Congress will be in February, so we're not actually that far off seeing the kind of next year's.
No.
Oh, is it March now? Of course
so.
it is, because it's on my birthday. They've moved it, so now I'm going to be at a mobile phone trade show on my birthday.
You're so
Think
lucky.
of the party.
Yeah, just think of
So many phones, so much
many phones,
connectivity.
phone party. Okay, cool. Well, that's looking ahead to the future, but now let's look back to the past.
What a good segue.
I know, it's
and
good,
a
isn't it?
Segway is a futuristic device, so let's hop off that Segway, Rich, and get on a horse and cart. Oh, yeah! You see where I was going. Okay, so let me first tell you quickly about what a parchment is.
Yes, okay.
What is a
A
parchment?
parchment, Luke and Rich,
old
and
paper.
audiences, it's not paper though. It's actually made from flattened calf skin and hides of animals.
Ugh.
Yes, you're wrong to be disgusted, because what we found out from researchers at University of York and Trinity College in Dublin have found that they have been able to find out about British farming practices by studying the DNA of these parchments. Because they are from living animals, they've actually been able to use DNA, find out what these animals were fed at the time, and then be able to learn about farming practices.
Oh, that's clever.
Sort of about 700 years ago, a long time ago.
And this is possible because obviously, like animal DNA would have sort of disappeared over the years or decayed.
Yeah.
But parchment is looked after very carefully in libraries and archives. And that
Yes,
kind of thing,
and
so
also
it's
the
nice.
preservation process to make the parchment as well means that it won't erode as quickly as just a dead cow would.
Well, I think that the next stage is obvious. Really, I think that scientists have to create a theme park with cloned British arable animals. Like we could call it Arable World. Oh, wait, it's arable farming. Agricultural World.
I don't know. They're both great names. though.
Husbandry World. Husbandry Park.
Husbandry Park. I mean, look at how normal this cow looks. It's not been selectively bred to be like an enormous big cow marshmallow.
That's interesting. I didn't know parchment was. I thought parchment was was just paper that's had tea spilt on it and burnt around the edges. Anyway, cool. What else has been going on?
Can I also just
We've lost Andy. Luke,
While
why
Andy
don't you do the
recovers
next news
himself,
story?
can I also just point out that in 700 years,
Yeah.
historians aren't going to know anything about our farming conditions from our paper. So, you know,
So who's the jerk now?
whose history's full? We are.
They will be able to tell quite a lot about farming practices by sort of the fossilised barn full of like 10 million chickens crammed into 2 foot square, which is our current way we do it.
Yeah.
Anyway, more history stuff. The layout of a medieval city, a medieval underground city. This is in Old Sarum in Salisbury.
Old Sauron?
I don't know if I'm pronouncing Sarum, Old Sarum.
I don't know. I've never been there.
Somewhere in Salisbury,
Okay.
good old Salisbury, they have been
plain.
able to reveal the entire layout of this underground city using digital mapping technologies. So it's completely non-invasive. So if you haven't had to go and dig up half of Salisbury to be able to really see underground and see what the stuff looks like,
So we
have to
haven't-
actually look at using
technologies.
Yeah,
That's
technology,
good.
using tech.
That's good as well because it means that no one's unlocked the curse. So, you know.
It does mean Tony Robinson's out of a job, but never mind.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, he had a good run.
But we can see this back to about 5,000 years ago. So
That's
it's
pretty
good
cool.
that we're using all these new tech to find things.
It's
if
good,
it's not
isn't it,
farming,
technology, yeah.
we're looking at old cities underground. That's nice.
Or
all
listening
happening.
to Taylor Swift.
Yep.
Or listening to
Or listening to Taylor Swift. That's the next news story that
Well,
we're segueing smoothly into there.
Speaking of Taylor Swift, Rich, now I knew what you wanted me to say.
Yeah.
Bobfm is now on iOS, and Luke is going to tell us more.
What is
you've
Bobfm?
You've probably never heard of Bobfm, which is completely reasonable status of existence because it's not nearly as popular, I think, as many of the other streaming services. But it's quite interesting because it's platform agnostic. So what that means is you go to Bobfm and you sort of play a song through their streaming service, and what that's doing is it's pulling the music from another platform. So you can set up a playlist, and some of them will be sort of like pulling from YouTube with a music video, some of them will be pulling from Spotify. So the idea is you can make a playlist that has some stuff that's not on Spotify, some stuff that's not on SoundCloud. I think it's primarily Spotify, SoundCloud, and YouTube. But it's pretty impressive actually, because I think everything is on YouTube, because most artists have an official channel page.
Yeah.
So
What about people who just rip it and put it on YouTube for fun?
I think it will. I don't know exactly how it finds it. I don't know if it's sort of searching from some sort of YouTube provided database, but
like Vivo.
Yeah. But I used it for a while and it was pretty good. There were some songs I couldn't find any AC/DC or something through it, and then when I went to YouTube, there was like an AC/DC channel or something along those lines. Okay. But it is a cool idea, and it gets around the problem of Taylor Swift not being on Spotify. So
for the Beatles. So if you're a fan of the Beatles or Taylor Swift, or not AC/DC,
it's been around for a short while. But now it's got an iOS app.
So do you pay for it then, or would you? If you,
no, it's
I'm
free.
a premium Spotify subscriber. Would that? Can I link my account or?
Well, what I do know is that if you have an iOS device, you have to have the Spotify app installed in order for it to work. So I think, yes, in that case, you would need to be a premium subscriber to use it on your phone. So it's a bit kind of, it's not like seamless or that smooth, to be honest.
Or that good?
Well, no, it's sort of like it's kind of if I couldn't find something on Spotify, it might be where I would go instead of straight to YouTube. For example,
it seems like the sort of thing that's going to be around until everybody sorts their head out about streaming services and it's going to disappear. But for the meantime, if you want to listen to Taylor Swift or the Beatles or whatever, then this is one way of doing it on your phone. But there you go. Cool. And what else is going on?
Well, there is a new Superman TV show. Oh yes! And best of all, there is no sign of Superman in it.
Hooray!
Okay, how does that work?
Sounds great. Well, Rich, you can tell us more.
I will tell you more. You'll probably, for those of you watching the video, you'll see Russell Crowe on the screen there in Man of Steel playing Superman's dad.
Is he anything to do with it?
He's not. Well, let me tell you, Luke. So in Man of Steel he plays Superman's dad, and this new TV show is called Krypton, and it's set on Superman's home planet of Krypton, and it's all about his family, specifically his grandfather.
Okay.
And so it's kind of about the history and the past of Krypton. So so Superman isn't even in it, or Kal-El as he was known at the time, not Carl-El, as you
Carl-El,
who's friends with Peter Spiderman.
John Spiderman.
It's I don't know, it's kind of an interesting idea, but I don't know, our readers aren't particularly impressed. What do readers think, Luke?
Well, Peter Da Silva says, so a planet of aliens with no powers and no Superman till its last day.
That is a good point.
That would be the incredible climax of this show if you stick with it for all 8 seasons or whatever. In the last
everybody dies.
Yeah, in the last episode, everyone will die, and this sort of superhuman being will, with immense power, will emerge, and then it'll be like end credits. The end. David Whitehead says, Kryptonian teen angst. I'll pass. Winsoul says, don't forget, they are also the network that brought us the rebooted Battlestar Galactica. There is hope.
That's true, because it's on Sci-Fi.
Yeah, because when I saw this, I thought so DC has seen the incredibly good response to Gotham and decided to make that again, but with characters that are less well loved.
Well, that's it. So the problem that I have with this is it's produced or written and developed by a couple of people, including David Goyer, who is the guy who wrote Man of Steel, and there is a lot of Krypton stuff in Man of Steel. So he's presumably recycling that, and he's building on the mythology that he's kind of developed there, which was kind of interesting. But the thing is, Man of Steel is terrible, and David Goyer is literally the worst. I mean, he's like the go-to guy for these geek properties because he wrote the Dark Knight movie, or he worked on the Dark Knight movies. He previously worked on Blade and all this kind of thing, and he's just written Batman vs Superman. But they're all awful. I mean, Man of Steel, absolutely terrible. So I don't know if this is going to be any good, but if he had Michael Shannon in it, then that would be pretty cool.
Big disappointment about this. My big disappointment is that you wrote in your headline "Gran of Steel," which I thought was genuinely what it was called. Which I thought sounds brilliant. Gran of Steel. That's.
Do you know what they should
definitely
They
watch
should reboot Supergran. That's what they should do. Forget Superman, forget Gotham, bring back Supergran.
And then the Supergran Banana Man crossover for 2020.
Absolutely, yeah.
Can I ask a geeky question?
Yeah, go ahead.
Are all of the people on Krypton also Supermans? Or are they only Supermans because on Earth the gravity is different and the sun is different?
It's not the gravity; it's the sun's rays. Yeah, so they would be Supermans if they went to Earth. In fact,
but they're not Supermans; they're normal mans.
They're normal mans
on Krypton.
Yeah, they're Kryptonians. Yeah, just regular, everyday working folk like you and me.
Oh, okay. I thought maybe everyone was a Superman, so it would be sort of like level the playing field. Everyone was really strong. They were just living together.
True, yeah.
In a world of the Supermen, Who is the Superman?
The one-eyed man. Actually, no, he'd be flattened. be an absolute butchery.
He wouldn't last. Cool. All right, then. Well, thanks very much. And finally, one last news story.
Yes, GTA 5.
Yes.
We all know about the controversy around GTA 5 and its woman beating scenes.
Why is this particularly flared up again now?
So there has
Grand Theft Auto was a violent video game.
Yeah. So there has been a what's the word I'm looking for here?
Update?
No.
Expansion pack?
No.
Re-release?
People giving signatures to ban something.
Oh, a petition.
Thank you, petition.
Well, what's the background of this? What's the change in the game that's
so recently there's a first-person view in Grand Theft Auto 5 now, which allows you...
This is the HD remake.
The HD remake for
Xbox
PS4
One
and Xbox One.
Right.
Yeah, allows you, not your character, you're seeing through the eyes of your character, so you are going out and theoretically stabbing women in the face or beating people up or having sex with prostitutes and then killing them.
And it's now all first person.
And that's now all first person
stuff,
instead of you seeing a character do it, which a lot of people argue that is a big, big difference because there's no disconnect between you and the character anymore.
Yeah.
It is you doing its thing. And yeah, a petition was started on change.org, which reached over 50,000 signatures and was successful in getting copies of GTA 5 pulled from Kmart and Target in Australia.
Right.
Now, in response to that, almost quite comically, because they did it as a bit of a parody, another change.org petition came up, which actually got more signatures to get the Bible banned from those supermarkets for the same reasons. They quoted the violence against women and how it's okay to burn. A man should be able to burn his daughter if she is a whore. Their words, not mine. And how it's okay to stone them to death and stuff. So they argued that the Bible is promoting similar violence against women. Quite
it's an interesting point.
Actually, then turned out that Target then pointed out that they don't actually sell the Bible, so they should have done a little bit more research on their campaign before beginning. Really.
Well, Australia is quite tight on games, aren't they? They're quite they're very down on sort of violent games.
They do. They're a little more heavy-handed than other countries with sort of banning and censorship. But this game is not banned. In Australia, it's just these shops have decided not to sell it.
Yeah. But it could be, given their size, it could be that more shops do.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there's loads of shops that sort of don't sell things. Like we were talking about this earlier. It's like there's some like magazines, some extreme, shall we say, magazines that like W.H. Smith doesn't sell. It's not because
porno.
Yeah. Oh, right, yes, thank you. It's not because those sort of magazines are necessarily sort of banned or outlawed or anything. It's just
you can still get them if you know where to look.
Yeah,
on the railway side.
In the bins by the back of Threshers.
That joke's going to go completely over the head of everyone born after 1985, I think.
Really? Yeah, exactly. What's a railway? They'll say. Can't I just tweet my way to Birmingham? So I personally don't really see this as like an extreme sort of act of like censorship or anything like that.
No, I think that it was very much a bit of a parody, a bit of trying to prove a point with this second petition. Yeah. And there's so many arguments you can have about. I mean, we're not going to try and decide here whether or not GTA 5 is right or wrong in what it does and stuff. But there's obviously the argument that the shop should be much more concerned about making sure that they're not selling to underage, because it's an adult game, it's R-rated and 18 rated, and it's designed for adults and for adults to buy. But so many game shops, they are not strict at all about selling it to underage people.
Parents need to understand as well that just because something's a video game it's not necessarily for kids. So they can't just buy a game and then just hand it straight to them.
It's definitely not for kids. This one.
Absolutely not. No.
And a final note on this, I think if you are interested in the topic, I would absolutely suggest you do a Google search on google.com for our GameSpot colleague Danny O'Dwyer's excellent video on this subject, which is kind of a video discussion piece around sort of this. He says that this kind of first-person mode in GTA 5, while he's a long-term gamer and big fan of the series, did make him feel guilt.
Right.
And so, there is some stuff in there that's troubling. So do a search for things like that. GameSpot.
GameSpot.com. If you're a fan of games, then they do all the games.
I actually don't like first-person view. I think it's too difficult. Anyway, that's not the point.
Well, that's
fair
good.
enough.
Should we? What are readers saying about this? Actually, we're not going to do it to you. Just if you want to see an argument between gamers and people who really love the Bible, then
games.
If you want to literally feel years taken off your life, then go and read the comments on this story. But that's entirely up to you. All right, cool. Speaking of comments and stuff, let's hear what you guys have been saying in this week's feedback.
Okay, first of all, we have a bit of correspondence from ex of this parish, Nate Langson.
Nate Langson, yes.
Andy, that's your brother.
It is my brother. Good old Nate Langson.
Long-term podcast listeners will remember Nate, and he's written to us.
Yeah.
He says, and now I wasn't on the podcast last week, so this doesn't make any sense to me. But
well, this is we were having a little bit of discussion about inflation and the humble Space Raider crisp. And
Nate says,
picks up the story there.
I listened intently to your discussion about the Space Raider crisp. I too mourned the day these pocketable sacks of extraterrestrial nutrition crumbled under a blow delivered by the hands of economics, like the mouth of a warrior pulverizing the crisp in question betwixt tongue and palate. That is, until the arrival of a messiah known singularly as Tesco.
So what happened was that Space Raiders, the prices went up by 5p and death threats were sent out. We had to trim this for length, honestly. Nate, once he gets going on the subject of crisps.
Yeah, you're listening to about a tenth of this message. It was really impressive.
It's one of the things you can get particularly passionate about.
Right, yeah. Right. So the price went up 5p and then there was a huge outcry against this and the price was taken back down. But it was only temporary and the price has since crept back up again they are no longer 10p crisps. That is until
Tesco arrived. Space Raiders were, once again, Nate writes, effectively a 10p purchase. The multi-buy was the saving grace of the 10p Space Raider.
That's right.
Which is best, Nate.
Thank you very much, Nate.
Thank you, Nate.
Always good to hear from
And again,
Nate.
I cannot stress how much we have had to truncate that for a sort of time constraint.
Absolutely,
It really was
filthy language.
Really,
honestly, Nate.
Yeah. Oh,
get your mind out of the gutter.
Yeah.
Cool. And what else is happening?
Mike Batt says, why do birds suddenly appear when I'm near to you?
Well, he's got the title wrong there for a start.
Yeah.
It's close to. Also, Mike Batt, the well-known songwriter who wrote the Womble song, you think he'd pay more attention to the oeuvre of the Carpenters?
Exactly.
Well, thank you for your comment, Mike. Anyway.
Thank you, Mike. Check that you're not covered in grain. Jeff Lucan says, I'm still waiting for Android Lollipop for my Nexus 7 2013 Wi-Fi. I'm in the UK.
So are we. What a coincidence.
Yay!
Wait, Jeff. Oh, Jeff. How's Jeff doing?
Jeff. Lovely Jeff. How much longer do I need to wait, or am I just unlucky? Lollipop is supposed to be coming to the Nexus 7 2013 and 2012, I think.
Okay.
So the only advice we can really give is be patient and sort of check for updates, because even when you're getting this direct from Google, they do sort of roll it out in stages.
Yeah.
So
there's clusters of updates.
I think it shouldn't be too long, but then you may also be unlucky. We just don't know.
It is annoying to have to wait, though.
Yes, it is.
Dan Pointer says, do small portable amps make any noticeable difference to MP3 files? Andy?
No, not if you are listening to low quality MP3 files. If you've got really high quality ones or lossless files, then yes. If you're playing through like a cheap phone, but you probably aren't putting lossless files in a cheap phone because they're massive files. You've probably got a high-res audio player, and it probably has its own amp built in, so you don't need it. And some can upscale your music a certain amount, but again, only if you're starting with a good file to begin with.
Cool. All right. And one last question.
Philip Thompson says,
hello.
After what has happened with the release plan for Street Fighter V, do you think that something should be done about console exclusive games? So
somebody should do something.
Something should be done, ban this sick filth. So a bit of background to this.
Yep.
So Street Fighter V isn't coming to Xbox One, it's only going to be on PS4, and that is because Capcom insisted on open cross-platform play.
So this is the rumour anyway. That, Microsoft isn't interested in having games that are compatible, that you can cross-platform play on both games.
Flagged as rumour. And that's something that Microsoft won't budge on. Microsoft has snapped up a similar exclusive deal with Rise of the Tomb Raider. So, understandably, maybe a lot of gamers are annoyed that this much anticipated title may not be coming out for the things that they've paid hundreds of pounds for.
Yeah.
So, back to Philip's question, should something be done about console exclusive games?
I understand why they'd be annoyed.
I can absolutely understand why you'd be annoyed. I wouldn't say, though, that something particularly should be done, because this isn't sort of, not like I've always got the back of kind of normal people instead of sort of like big monstrous companies. But these sort of deals do kind of keep the whole entertainment industry going. Like you see this everywhere. It's not just games on consoles. Like with music, we've already talked about like Taylor Swift is kind of not on Spotify because that's just sort of something her record company has decided. In movies, certain movies only come out in certain like branches of cinema and stuff like that. Or there's kind of distribution deals. Like everything is kind of
Netflix and stuff.
Netflix,
like that,
yeah. Netflix has exclusives.
Well, that's
Sky
the
has
time. But that
exclusives.
beeping you can hear is Megatimer cutting us off. So
oh boy,
we're going to have
to
to end it there.
That is it.
If Megatimer ever shuts up. Thank you for all your questions, everybody.
Mark nearly just dropped Megatimer, which would have killed us all.
Our producer Mark, who you will never see, just heroically threw himself across the studio behind the scenes. Yeah. In many ways, what's happening over there is much more interesting than what's happening.
If only we could turn the cameras around. We do actually have one that sort of rotates, but it doesn't rotate that far. I don't think. And even if it did, there's another camera in the way. So
maybe in future weeks. All right. Well, thank you very much for the feedback, everybody. Keep it coming.
Yes, please keep contacting us, emailing us at our email address. Yeah, it's on the bottom. There you go. Look at it. CNET UK Podcast at cbsi.com.
Cool. Right. Thank you very much, Luke.
Thanks.
Thank you, Andy.
Thanks
to our heroic producer Mark, who you will never see. Right. We're off to do some Christmas shopping. Bye.